I'm there to win. It's plain and simple. My skills are way too good to think of anything else at the moment.
Foreplay, presented by Barstool Sports, brought to you by Chevrolet, our great friends at Chevy, the Chevy Blazer EV. Go check it out. Harry Higgs is going to be on this show. So we got just the fellas right now, myself and Trent, the originals, a little bit of a throwback episode for the first part of this. And then Dan Rappaport sits down with Harry Higgs, who's we talked about him on the last show a lot. He was very close with Grayson Murray. He's won back-to-back times on the Corn Ferry Tour. I threw it back to about 2.5 years or so ago, and we had a phenomenal podcast with Harry Higgs. So we love hearing from him. He's one of the most beloved beauties in this game right now. So excited for him to be on the show. But yeah, myself and Trent, we got closest to the pin. We got from the gallery. We got some breaking news that I just saw where Lexi Thompson announced that she'll be retiring at the end of this year, which I thought was kind of shocking. It's U.S. Open week. So she chose, obviously, a pretty big platform for her to announce that. But we're here. I want to start the show with reminder to watch Breaking 90, Rain Dance. We did a whole thing on Rain Dance National, how cool it is. It was very windy out there. And I'm just going to say this is, there's been it's been a few years now of Breaking 90. Obviously, it took you, whatever it was like a year. So I didn't actually mean that as a slight. It was, what did it take you, like a year to do the Breaking 100, something like that?
I should go back and look because I don't know the exact dates, but I do know that the pinned tweet on my Twitter is the day that I broke 90, or the day that the video came out. It probably came out like a week after I actually did it. And that is July 21st of 2021. So we're a little under 3 years that's taken to break 90. But from the original start where I was trying to break 100 to breaking 100, I don't know. Or it's definitely been a couple years from breaking 100 to breaking 90. Regardless, the video comes out tonight. This podcast is coming out on Thursday. If you're listening to this in the morning, the teaser is going to drop in a couple hours, and then 7 p.m. Thursday night, the latest Breaking 90 is coming out. We looked at the schedule. There's not that many sports going on. I think the Ranger game is tonight, and if the Mavericks don't sweep, I think there's a basketball game tonight. But all of it starts post 8 p.m. Breaking 90 is dropping at 7 p.m. It'll be over by the time those other sports happen. So watch it tonight. Rain Dance National, again, like Riggs said, we talked a lot about it on the last podcast. New Breaking 90 out tonight.
And it's just it's a big video. I think people have watched us, a lot in the Good series, in collaborations with Bob Does Sports Crew, and everybody's like, and Grant Horvath, they're like, Trent, I feel like you're hitting it good enough. How have you not broken 90? You got to be close. You're working with Tillery. And there's been many iconic moments in breaking 100, breaking 90. And obviously one of the more iconic moments when you did break 100, many of the iconic moments have been when you have failed at some different points. So I will just
it's unfortunate, but it's kind of goes with the territory.
It's true. And so yeah, this one, the course is awesome. And Breaking 90 is back for 2024. So big video, watch it tonight, out everywhere.
My game and my YouTube existence as a YouTube golfer, it really goes to show the mental side of golf, because like you're alluding to, in the good videos, in the Bob Does videos, in the collaborations that we do, I play pretty well. And people are like, wow, this guy is well on his way to breaking 90. And who else, however far he wants to take this thing, who knows how far. But I am so relaxed in those videos because I know I have Riggs and Frankie and Dan and Lurch or whoever else is on the team. And that's where I thrive. I thrive in a team environment. I've always been that way. And then when you put me on a perch and you say, you have to do something, when the expectation is I have to accomplish something, I usually fail. I largely fail. And that's the way that golf is. And that's how most people play the game of golf, where it's your score, it's your swing, it's your putts. And when that is put on me in a non-team environment, I will top it on the 18th hole at Colonial Springs when I can make a par and break 90. Like that's just the way that I'm mentally wired. I know that about myself. So yeah, we can all say, and it does show in those videos, that I play well when I'm in those other environments. Breaking 90 and breaking 100 is just a whole other ballgame. So I'm not saying that though it's not going to translate, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but I am so much more nervous when we are filming breaking 90. I am as nervous as it gets, and that's just the way that golf is. So I don't know. Watch the video.
You needed to grow up as like European United Kingdom golfer, because it's talked about all the time, especially with the Ryder Cup history and all that. Like, oh yeah, the Europeans and in the UK, they grew up playing team golf all the time. And you look at the scorecards a lot when we play these old golf courses in Scotland. And a lot of it, they just have the team, like the scorecard is built for the team result. And they tell all kinds of stories about they go, part of the process of every time they play golf is they play in the morning, like 2-team best ball. They have a big boozy lunch. And then they're like, you're only allowed to play alternate shot in the afternoon. It's just team golf, team golf, team golf. And then over here, it's just, for whatever reason, golf, when you get introduced to golf, it's a lot more individualistic. And again, this gets talked about with the team events all the time. Whenever we lose to Europe and we're favored in the whole deal, I feel like you are such a team golfer. And I know we say it, but playing ball and hole on your own ball is just such a different animal. It's the reason, like people say, tournament golf and every other kind of golf is a million times different. And even when you're just trying to post your own score, it's not like when we're playing 2v2 best ball that we're like cheating or picking up 50 footers all the time. But it's like the stress and the nervousness and how much harder it is to play good golf when you are constantly thinking about what your score is at and how every single hole you have to rely on you is so much harder than you're freed up when you have a teammate. Even when your teammate just hits one down the fairway and you're both playing your own ball, it still frees you up and makes it easier to play golf because you could just swing down the fairway knowing you have some sort of crutch if you need it. And man, in Breaking 90 playing your own golf ball, there's no fucking crutch, dude. It's just you.
Dude, in the last episode of Breaking 90 at Rockville, I missed probably 6 5-footers. And if I'm out there, if you're playing a cows round with your buddies, that's the difference. Like at least half of those people would have been like, pick that up. Let's go to the next hole. And that's fine. That's place to play. And that's if you're out there just having a casual round with your friends. I get that. But that really is the difference right there, where if you want to play well and you're doing ball and hole and you want to get your real score in a casual round, that's maybe an 89. In a real ball and hole breaking 90, play it, put it in the hole, it's a 94 and I don't do it. So and again, I'm not expecting everybody to play ball and hole, but it just shows the difference when you're out there trying to put up a good score, a real score that you want to be like, that's what I shot today. Or if you're out there with your friends, they're just like, pick it up, let's go to the next hole. It's not that big a deal. There's many different ways to play the game of golf. We're just showing the different sides of it.
Yep. And even those 5-footers, let's say 3 of those were holes where your teammate was already in for the same score. So you step up and just drill those because you're like, yeah, all right, our team, all I care about is the team score. It just makes it easier versus when you're playing your own ball, you're thinking like, all right, Trent Ryan, don't hit this 3 feet by. Like, let's try to make it. But also you're a little tentative. It just changes everything. So it's fucking hard, man. It's hard to go from, shooting 100 and something to like you're genuinely trying to break 90 on camera in front of hundreds of thousands, like millions of people that know you're trying to do it. It is the number one thing that we get every single place that we go. Any tournament that we go to, any Barstool Classic we go to. Trent, you break 90 yet? Trent, how's that going? So yeah, it's back. Big video tonight. Make sure you check it out. And let's go, Trent. Let's go Rain Dance National. Really cool spot. This episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Chevy. With golf season in full swing, Chevy wants to help you make the most of every drive. We're talking the all-electric Blazer EV's bold design, dynamic performance, making it the perfect electric vehicle to get you to the course in style and comfort. Motor Trend loves this thing, Trent.
Yeah, this thing won all of the awards. The award, it was put up against every type of vehicle, electric,
Big,
gas, all that
small.
stuff, big, small. The Chevy Blazer EV, it's the king. It's on top of the mountain. And we knew that. We've been Chevy guys forever now. They just make the best vehicles, regardless of what type it is, in the world.
And I love the Blazer. I've looked, especially ever since Chevy came on and we've worked with them. I said, you know what's really awesome? Our Chevy Blazers. Growing up in Missouri, you saw quite a bit of them. A lot of the vintage ones that people would kind of redo. Now the fact that they've got that Blazer and it's in the EV, and then Motor Trend came out and said, you know what? We're going to judge them all, and Blazer EV beat them all. Not surprised. The thing is phenomenal. It's got unique style, comfort-driven interior, incredibly smooth ride, and responsive handling. Chevy has teed up the perfect electric vehicle to help you get anywhere you want to be. Head on over to Chevy.com/BlazerEV to check out lease offers and amazing deals. That is Chevy.com/BlazerEV. Chevrolet, together, let's drive. I want to make a quick comment. Just scrolling through my phone recently, it feels like the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. Does it feel to you like there's just more tornadoes than there usually are?
Oh yeah.
Is this
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of is this like the warnings that we got for decades about the world changing and the temperature and the day after tomorrow movie and all that? Is that's just happening now? Because I mean, I feel like we didn't really see a severe tornado or footage of one more than like a couple times a year. You would hear about it and obviously be devastated. Every time I scroll through my phone, there's another fucking tornado from the movie Twister that is just barreling down some highway in Iowa every day, dude.
Dude, listen, I want to be clear. I'm not a scientist. Everything I say is anecdotal. Growing up, we saw a lot of funnel clouds, tons of funnel clouds, which is just that'll set the sirens off and you kind of look up or look in the distance and it's the swirl. It's not a tornado till it touches the ground. And we got very few of those, at least where I grew up. We got a lot of warning sirens and a lot of funnel clouds that would dissipate and that would go away. It does seem now that more and more, again, this is anecdotal, these tornadoes are getting to the ground and the videos of them are insane. My sister still lives in the Midwest and there were those Greenfield, Iowa tornadoes a couple weeks ago that were devastating. And then there were the Nebraska ones about a month ago that were devastating. And you see the videos and they look like CGI. They don't look real. These are motherfucker tornadoes. These are the ones that touch the ground, gain momentum, and will rip up a house in 2 seconds. Now, maybe this was all happening before, and just like when I was growing up, social media wasn't as prevalent, and I didn't know about everything that was happening in the surrounding area. But boy, the videos that are coming out of the Midwest with these tornadoes, it sure seems like there's more of them, and they're more powerful than ever. They are so scary, and I feel for any of these small towns that just get absolutely, literally destroyed by a tornado, but it does seem like it's happening more often than not, and I don't know what that means.
So we're saying that these funnel clouds are they're converting more. Like they used to not convert at this rate to I'm a real tornado now. And it feels like they're converting at a significantly higher rate because we're both from, Iowa, Missouri, similar kind of like Tornado Alley a little bit. You get these things that you get warnings all the time. We have little sirens that they test every month for tornado warnings and whatnot. And I got to tell you, it is one of the more horrifying natural disasters that I can imagine because there is basically no warning. It is like, oh yeah, there may be a thunderstorm this afternoon. We'll see. And then all of a sudden a funnel cloud turns into just a absolute terrorizing funnel that could be a half a mile wide for a half hour or an hour that could just it legitimately could just strike down and destroy your house out of fucking nowhere. And it's awful, man. When you hear, you're right, like these tales and they show and they always cut to the footage from the small town and everything is completely destroyed. And you're like, dude, that was 5 minutes before that happened. That was just like an afternoon where, and again, we're both from this area where every afternoon in the summer, there's a 50-50 shot that you get a pretty severe thunderstorm that rolls through for a half hour and then it's gone. And you're saying that's just a nice light afternoon. It's 82 degrees. And then 30 minutes later, without much of a warning, a tornado comes through, levels an entire town, and then it's just gone. And when you see the footage like later that evening or that morning, it's like a beautiful evening. And it's fucking horrifying. It's about as scary of a natural disaster, like I said, as you can have because there's no warning whatsoever. And it just feels like, man, when I'm scrolling through these social media, I'm scrolling through TikTok doing the aimless scrolling. It's like every other clip is just a massive tornado barreling down some highway, wreaking havoc everywhere.
Yeah, it's not good. It's really not good. Yeah, they're really scary. And you're right. Growing up, it was so funny. When I moved out east, I would tell people about how they would test the tornado sirens the first Wednesday of every month, which was just you would wake up on whatever April 3rd, and it would happen to be a Wednesday, and the sirens would be going off, and you just get used to that. I lived there for almost 3 decades, and that's just not a thing on the East Coast, or I would imagine probably not on the West Coast either. But I mean, every area has their scary natural disaster. There's hurricanes, we don't get those. There's earthquakes, we don't get those. But yeah, there is something visually really scary about a tornado.
Earthquakes up there. You're right. I was thinking of I was thinking with hurricanes, at least we usually have like a week or 5 days of warning where they're like,
they can see it coming. Yeah.
There's this giant fucking storm that's kind of going, by like Cuba-ish right now. And we got a couple days, evacuate if you can. whatever. It's like tornado can pop up at any moment. Earthquake, another one. Earthquakes and tornadoes are a little bit like, I think it's bullshit when snakes can just come out of the ground and attack you. Like there should be some sort of you have to present yourself and then I can see you, or I can walk around and do the little hit the ground thing so that they'll slither off. If they pop up out of the ground, I feel like that should be illegal. Same with kind of earthquakes and tornadoes. That's a little bit like they could just strike at any moment without really any warning. That's kind of fucked up. And it's horrible when you watch this coverage. People lose everything. People lose their lives. And there's just no way to defend yourself. So it's very scary that these things are happening more often. Obviously, heart goes out to everyone who's been affected, and it sucks. And I'm very scared being in Missouri for this week right now for Memorial Day weekend. We got the Classic coming up at Bogey Hills. Just because even when I go to sleep, I'm like looking, and it's like, oh yeah, 25% chance that there's like a little storm tonight. I'm like, that could just be a tornado, and you never even have a chance. You're just sleeping, and all of a sudden you're gone. So very scary what's going on.
Very scary.
I want to talk about Gamble Sands real quick. I know on the last podcast, I didn't want to step on the toes of Rain Dance and how cool that place was and all that. I got to just give a huge shout out to Gamble Sands. It is in the middle of nowhere, Washington. It's a place that people probably would never expect to go to. I saw it pop up on social media, 4 or 5 years ago for the first time. We did a Barstool Classic there 2 years ago, and I've kind of raved about it ever since, but it starts to wear off a little bit. You're like, oh yeah, maybe it was recency bias when I was there, but I thought that place was amazing. I thought it was one of the coolest courses I ever played. And I said to people last time that when I walked off the 9th green at Gamble Sands the first time I played it, I legitimately thought in my head, this might be the best golf course I've ever played if the back nine is anything like the front nine. And the back nine is phenomenal. It's not as stunning, in my opinion, as the front nine, but it's phenomenal. I think Gamble Sands is a top 10 golf course I've ever played. It's a David McClay kid design who did the original Banded Dunes course. He did Mammoth Dunes, which we played at Sand Valley, which is awesome. And he has gone through a couple different phases in his life. We got a little bit unlucky 2 years ago. We did the Gamble Sands Barstool Classic. DMK, as they call him, flew there on his own plane, which is just a classic, like, course architect. He's from Scotland, but lives in like Bend, Oregon kind of guy move. And then we absolutely sent it the night before at the bar, and we had scheduled to do this like hour and a half podcast. They were announcing the new course, and he had lost his voice from our night before. So we did a whole podcast where he just didn't really have a voice. So that was a little bit of a shame. But looking back, man, he's been through a couple phases in his life. He built the original Banded Dunes course like very, very, very early in his career. And then he built a couple courses that people weren't crazy about, a little bit wacky. He was going through some stuff. Now he's back. And again, the Mammoth Dunes course is so phenomenal. It got incredibly high rave reviews when it opened a few years ago. And the course at Gamble Sands is so good. It's so fun. It is a relatively easy course, especially if there's no wind, but it is spectacular. It plays very firm. It's golf cart, so you can kind of just rip around. And then they've got another 18-hole David McClay Kid course opening next summer that we got to get a tour of. That's going to be wildly different, a little bit harder and spectacular. And they've got a par 3 course there. So I just have to shout that place out. It is highly, highly worth it. It's very, very hard for a lot of parts of the country to get there. Like we flew to Spokane and then drove 2.5 hours. But once you're there, it is so unbelievably fun. It's just pretty much pure golf. The views are spectacular. The weather in Central Washington pretty much all summer long is not at all what you would think Pacific Northwest. It's like hot, it's sunny, and it was awesome. So big thanks to those guys having us. Every person that played in that classic the whole time was just like, holy shit, this place is amazing. Yeah, I know. I kind of remembered that it was amazing. Confirmed, it's awesome. The lodging on site, you wake up overlooking the river with like the mountains in the background, and it's early enough in the year, just like it was in Colorado, that the mountains still have the snow on top. So you're looking at all this contrast. It's just really cool. So big shout out to Gamble Sands. Love that place. Great hospitality. Our guy, Johnny, dude, the fucking bartender there, Trent, you would have loved this guy. So we show up for the Monday morning Barstool Classic, and, you know, they give us who's going to sing the national anthem. If Frankie's not there, somebody sings the national anthem. Like, oh, yeah, our bartender's going to sing the national anthem. Okay. So Johnny kind of delivers like a Fergie-style national anthem. He's got a great attitude. We're talking to him afterwards. He's like, oh, man, I'm coming off a hell of a weekend. He's like, I performed all weekend at this festival. So he went like Thursday, Friday, Saturday festival, came home Sunday, Monday morning, delivers the national anthem at the Barstool Classic. And then as soon as we finish up that afternoon, we go into the bar. He had just come in for his shift. And then we stayed until Wednesday morning. Every single time I walked into that bar, our bartender Johnny was, "Hey boys," just in there working nonstop.
Jesus.
And then we saw him. It was his birthday the day that we were leaving, and we were like, we see him again in the morning. He's in there like whipping up, handing out breakfast sandwiches. We're like, "Johnny, you're here again." He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm working this morning because this afternoon it's my birthday, and I'm gonna get after it." I just kind of like, it was such a cool vibe where you're just your boys with the bartender by the end of it. So, anyways, that place is awesome. Big shout out to Gamble Sands. Highly, highly recommend people go check that spot out.
I got to get out there. The schedules just haven't worked for, we kind of, the last couple of years, we've been splitting up the Barstool Classic. You kind of do the West, I do the Midwest, East, whatever. But everyone in our crew even is like, "Are you going to gamble?" And I'm like, "No, we're filming something. And I think Riggs is going to take that one." And they're like, "Oh, next year you got to get out there." And we go to a lot of cool places, and Rain Dance National is now on that list.
Yep.
But like, gamble is probably the number one in our own crew of the people who put up the signage, and like Za and Hannah and you, and they're just like, "Are you going to gamble?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "That's a mistake that you're not going." And I'm like, one of these years I'm going to get out there, and I just have to, because it looks unbelievable.
It's great, man. And you're right. Like Spider went out there this year for the first time, and he's the best, dude. And we had hyped it up the whole time. And the drive out there, it's not a bad drive. Like, you're driving through the countryside in Washington. You do a lot of the classic, like, wow, there's really just not a lot out here. And then you kind of start doing the conversation with each other where you're like, the simple life wouldn't be bad. Like, this is kind of nice. There's nobody around. And then you get to the part where you're like, they say there's overpopulation, but we've driven for an hour and a half. We haven't seen a single person. So it's like a fine drive. But as you kind of pull up into Gamble, you don't see shit. And you start to, like, all there are orchards. It's like these massive, like, cherry orchards throughout the entire place, and apples and all kinds of stuff, which are sneaky tall. So you can't really see around you as much as you would think. Like, and then all of a sudden you arrive on it and you're like, oh my God. So it is really, really cool. Hannah Cook, I think it's her favorite stop that we go to. Mancini and Taylor Ray were bummed. Mancini had to like fly right in and right out, so he couldn't stay. But our boy Hopper Nation, Ryan from the agency, he stuck around. He's the best. We played, and CSM, that's what it's right. I always get CSM and CMC. CMC does a bunch of our head covers and our accessories. CSM does. They're the agency that puts all the stuff up, signage, travels it around or transports it around the country. So anyways, Ryan's the man, nicest guy ever. He stuck around. We played a bunch of golf with a couple other friends and had a phenomenal time. So big shout out to Gamble Sands. You got to get there.
There's something about the Pacific Northwest that makes you just want to sell everything that you have and just live there. Like, I remember first time we went to Bandon Dunes, we kind of split up lodging, and one of the nights I stayed at the lake house with Brendan and all of them. And I woke up that one of the mornings, got a cup of coffee, and sat out on the dock of the lake. And while I was out there, I thought, I'm going to buy this place, and then I'm probably just not going to ever go to the East Coast again. Maybe I'll go to Iowa every once in a while to see my family, but I'm going to buy a place on this lake somehow, some way, and I'm just going to live out here. I don't know what it is about the Pacific Northwest, but it makes you just want to stay there. And it's not necessarily logical, because Bandon is very hard to get to. Gamble is very hard to get to. But maybe that's part of the charm, where you're like, maybe people won't come out and see me, and that'll be kind of great. But the people who want to come out and see me really love me, because it's hard to get out here. They'll come hang out at the lake house. We'll have the best time ever. And I'm kind of going to become a recluse to the rest of the world. There's something about the Pacific Northwest that puts that in your brain.
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest kind of feels like Lewis and Clark haven't gotten there yet. Like, whenever you're there,
I agree.
Like, dude, people don't know about this place. You get out there, because even Midwest, you go to California, and it's like a little bit different version of the same stuff in a lot of the places. You get out there, and you're like, now what is all this? It's so expansive, dude. Like Oregon and like, what is it? Idaho and Washington State,
Montana,
and these states
even
are massive, dude. They're fucking huge, and they've got mountains and lakes, and nobody's out there. You're like, why are people not out here? It's phenomenal out here.
And then you'll watch one documentary and be like, a couple serial killers will put some bodies in these woods. But outside of that, I think it's pretty appealing. Outside of, there's definitely one really famous one that I cannot think of his name right now. I watched a documentary on him. The good-looking serial killer, whatever his name is.
I know what you're talking
Ted
about.
Bundy.
What is it?
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely like threw probably like 100 bodies in the woods of the Northwest. But outside of that, it's beautiful and lovely, and I would love to move there someday.
But it's kind of an endorsement on what we're saying, that you can get away with that stuff out there. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want. We're not going to go down that route, but we're same vibe where it's almost like people preach a lot freedom and you're unencumbered and it's in privacy and all that. Out there, you sort of, it feels like it's easier to achieve that. So I'm with you. It is in the air, like it's almost tastes
Pure.
like fresher, it's like there's just more trees, so there's more air, oxygen, I guess. I don't know what it is, but it's nice out there. It's really nice in the Pacific Northwest.
It is.
Next week when I'm back in Arizona, I'm looking right now. Arizona Diamondbacks games, June 3rd, June 4th, $17 on Game Time. You can go to the game. Go to the ball game, baby. Have yourself a good time. Cools off in the evening, 6:40 p.m. Chase Field, $17. I'm looking at Luke Combs coming to Glendale, Arizona on the 31st, which is a Friday. You can get a bunch of different options. They got $62 tickets. They got $134 tickets. On Saturday, they got $114 tickets. There's all kinds of good options. Luke Combs is obviously a megastar right now. Game Time is the place to do it. If you're not familiar with Game Time, going to events is the best. It's what you work for. It's what you live for. It's what you grind to get to the weekend or to a Thursday evening, Friday evening, so that you can go to something awesome. It might be a sporting event. It might be a concert. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports, and finding tickets for less has never been easier.
Yeah, by the time this comes out Thursday morning, the night before, I will have been singing my lungs out to Tyler Childers at Madison Square Garden, thanks to Game Time. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, $51. This is in the past though, so I apologize to the people in the New York City area, but okay. He will have been there you could have saw him for $51. I'm sorry that you can't now. It's in the past, but going forward in the future, look at Game Time, look at the tickets, buy them, and go have yourself a damn good time.
Yeah, make them regret it, Trent. They regret it because they weren't on Game Time, but they can be on Game Time going forward. Game Time's got flash deals for sudden discount, zone deals for when you're feeling flexible. It's the best place for last-minute seats with up to 60% off your favorite events. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Fore for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Use the code Fore for $20 off your first purchase. Lexi Thompson, real quick. I just saw this on Instagram. I think she's doing a press conference today, so she'll have more to say. We could obviously talk about it more after the U.S. Women's Open, but retiring at the end of the year, kind of a surpriser, also kind of not. I feel like Lexi Thompson, a little bit of a just an interesting relationship to golf. I feel like was an absolute child prodigy. She won her one major championship in 2014, 10 years ago, and I feel like she's not that old. So she did that 10 years ago. She's won 15 times professionally, and she's had some really, really close calls. She had that rules incident, and I think like maybe it was the U.S. Open where she got dinged a bunch for moving her ball. Like she marked it on one side of the ball and then placed it down on the other side of the mark or something along that line, got like a bunch of different penalty strokes for it, ended up barely losing. She had the U.S. Women's Open at Olympic Club where it was like she was leading the whole time and then just kind of, that one hurt where it was like she already had this Phil Mickelson-like sort of build-up, even though she won the Kraft Nabisco in 2014, of like the U.S. Women's Open for them is the Masters, man. It's just different. It's just held at such a high regard, and like she couldn't quite get over that hump. And then she's had moments, I feel like, where she's kind of, I don't know if she's skipped events or taken some time off or she's just kind of had that relationship to the game where it's not been all golf all the time. And she's got the power and the swing and almost like the long, way past parallel type swing. And she's just a big star in the game. So for her to be retiring is obviously kind of wild news, but not crazy unexpected, like I said, with kind of her history and her relationship to the game overall, from everything I've heard, because we kind of deal with a lot of these different companies, agents, agencies, whatever that deal with, hospitality and pro-ams in LPGA events and whatnot. And all I hear about Lexi Thompson is that when it comes to mingling with people, clients, sponsors, whatever, that she's the best, that everybody kind of rave reviews. She's super sweet. She's super engaging. She's super nice. So I've heard nothing but great things, but big news in the women's game that Lexi Thompson retiring at the end of 2024.
She's 29.
God, it's crazy.
So that's young. Think about any sport. any sport that you watch where there's a 29-year-old who is like, that's Lexi Thompson is a recognizable name. Like you could talk about Lexi Thompson at a bar and people are like, oh yeah. And she's done 29 years old. So yeah, I would say that's really big news. She's one of the biggest names in the game.
She just played in the damn match with Rory and Max Homa, and you know what I mean? And Rose Zhang. So it's like, she clearly is a massive star in the game of golf. So for her to be retiring 29 years old is, hell, I'm 37. I still feel like I'm pretty young. She's 8 years younger than I am, and she's retiring from professional golf. That is wild. So yeah,
I wonder what the reason is. I know she's doing a press conference, so we're going to miss it, but I'd be very curious to know the reason.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully she plays well this week. It's the U.S. Women's Open. I'm excited to watch U.S. Women's Open. We got a bunch of big golf. We got the Canadian Open, RBC Canadian Open. Reminder, I'm going to be up there. When Alistair's tee times come out, if you're going to go to the event, you want a little something to do for a few hours, I'm going to be following along with Alistair. I got his family, a couple friends of his, and I'm going to bring a bunch of T-shirts that we had printed up. We're going to rally and hang around and try to get a crowd going and root on our guy Alistair. Could be a life-changing week for him. He had a life-changing week like 3 weeks ago. Hopefully he plays well at the Canadian Open. This is his kind of reward for playing so well at Myrtle Beach. He gets another PGA Tour start. This is it, RBC Canadian Open. And again, it's a big-ass event. It's probably it is the biggest event he's ever played in his entire life. Rory's in the field. Tommy Fleetwood, bunch of stars in the field. I'm pumped to get up to Canada. Colton Oss is going to be up there, our CBS crew. So we're going to have kind of a fun crew hanging around in Hamilton, which is just outside of Toronto for the week. So fired up for the RBC Canadian Open. And we've got the For the Cut bet going. So DK Partner, DraftKings, go check all that stuff out. Okay. We got a couple segments to get to if everybody's ready. We're going to start with a little closest to the pin action. Nice move for us here that we got rid of Frankie and Dan so we can really do some damage.
So I've thought about whether or not it's fair to do this when people aren't here. And what it comes down to is do the podcast. And I've been on the other side of it too. And I'm not accusing anybody of being like, oh, just do the podcast. Like, I've missed and they've done it. And I've been like, damn, is that the right thing for them to be doing? And then what it comes down to is if you do the podcast, you get points. So the better your attendance is, the more points you are potentially going to have in this closest to the pin segment.
It is kind of an attendance check. It would almost be like, is it fair for the professor to give that lecture when I'm not there? How am I supposed to pass the final? Be like, well,
right,
you gotta fucking go to class, dude.
And again, you've missed podcasts. I've missed podcasts. Danny, Frankie, we're all very busy. So I understand when people miss, because I miss as well. But if you want points during close to the pin, you got to be here. So basically I was trying to determine, should I feel bad if we were doing this today? And my answer is officially no.
Yep, I'm with you. I agree. I felt the exact same sentiment. I've missed a couple the last few weeks, classics, travel, whatever it is. And you start to see all the texts coming because we do the invisible ink text. And you start to be like, this is fucking bullshit. I'm just not getting points. I'm losing. And then you're like, well, I'm also just not on the show right now. I'm just not on the fucking show. So obviously I can't be upset about it. Right. But we have you, me, Alex Bush, all members of the game of closest to the pin. So big chance for us to kind of, I don't know what the point standing are. Bushman, I know you probably got last week's and you've got an updated points list.
Yeah. So last week, Riggs, you missed, right? Yes. So Last week's first one was Michael Block score in round one, Charles Schwab. He shot a 2 over 72, which Trent and Dan took points from because they had 73.
Okay.
And then second one was combined shots on goal for Rangers and Panthers in game 2, which was 57. And I took that was 61.
By the way, with this hockey playoffs, because the Islanders are out, but the Rangers still in it, and I was traveling a lot with Brendan Jones during last week. I just morph into whatever. Like when the Islanders are playing and I'm with Frankie, I'm like, I want the Islanders to win the Stanley Cup. And then when I'm with Brendan and we're out to dinner, we're like 2 nights we were out to dinner while the games are going on. And then I was like, I want the Rangers to win the cup so badly. That's actually a fun way to do it. I don't have a hockey team. I have a Brock Nelson jersey. I love Brock Nelson. But when I'm with people who are watching the hockey playoffs, I'm like, I bleed the colors of that team. And it's a lot of fun, actually.
No, I would be in the same boat if it weren't for this future that I have on the Dallas Stars. Again, hashtag DK Partner. I bet them before they were my team, before the playoffs started. It was like 8.5 to 1. And then they lost the first game against the Vegas Knights. They ended up losing the first 2 games. But after the first game, I doubled down and got them at like 11 or 12 to 1. So I've got a couple bets at an average of 10 to 1 on the Dallas Stars to win. and now they are 2 games away from the Stanley Cup final. I have a great relationship going with Matt Duchene, who is he scored the double overtime winner in the last series.
Yeah.
And he's very aware of my future bet, and he'll text me after they win, and he just goes, keeping your bet alive. And he's a legend. He's a huge golf guy. So he's aware, and they just keep rolling. They're 6 games away. So I'm a Dallas Stars guy, but I like the whole Rangers thing going on. As a hockey guy, I just get enamored in the whole thing. And like, man, MSG, when it's rocking, and the Rangers playing this crazy, they're having this crazy postseason where they've played plenty of games where they've gotten absolutely dominated overall in the overall play. And Shesterkin and then like Kreider with the hat trick, they're just kind of pulling shit out of their ass. They did it the other night. And man, it's fun to watch. I fucking love hockey playoffs. And I will say, Trent, I know you're more of a basketball guy. I had an Uber driver the other day who he was getting me going on the NBA playoffs. My guy Kelvin, he was just getting me going. And I was like, dude, I'll be honest with you. I never really watched NBA until the finals a lot of years because there have been super teams and it's not that interesting. And I know now it's 3-0 in both series, but Luka and all the drama that we've kind of seen in all the games, there's been like some wild comebacks. I feel like I've been very into the NBA playoffs too.
Well, it is the first year where like LeBron's gone, KD's gone, Steph is gone. So the stalwarts of the past have been eliminated. And it's now this newer like Luka, Kyrie, and Edwards. Like it's a different NBA than it was even like 4 years ago. So it is fun.
Yeah, the playoffs, dude. NBA, like hockey and basketball playoffs are just such a different animal. And I feel like in football, like every week is almost a playoff game because you only get so many games. So it just, I don't know, NFL it's like a playoff game every week. Whereas like in a NBA, NHL can drag a little bit. And then, man, when they get the intensity in the playoffs, it's fucking awesome. So playoffs have been great. Anyway, sorry, Bush. You can do a little
Alex
update
Bush, keep going. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of NBA, the third one was points for Anthony Edwards, game 2. He finished with 21. Frankie had 22. Wedged me out because I had 23. So, and then the fourth one was the date of Scotty's next tournament win. So hopefully that's coming soon.
Okay.
Point update. Trent 32 leading the pack. Dan 23. Riggs 23. Dan 23. Frankie 22. Alex 19.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. I've almost got a 10-point lead, and it's just I wish you can keep it going.
And you've missed like 2 or 3.
Yeah. I don't know what I don't know what that says. That this is not an applicable skill set like anywhere else. Like
just guessing.
Closest to the pin with the most random questions of all time. Like I'm good at something that doesn't matter. It's
You're
like
good at guessing.
Sucks. But I'm good at guessing. I don't know where that gets me. But all right.
Yeah, that's tough. You're almost like one of those guys who had like before game shows were really a thing and like how to become a millionaire. Then you had all these guys that I imagine at parties when I had all of this useless knowledge, and we're just like, fuck, like this is so pointless. I'm just doing this dumbass carpentry job or whatever I'm doing, and I can't. And then all of a sudden, something became their outlet. You found your outlet. Like you're just good at guessing random shit better than other people.
I'm like a guy who's good at badminton. There people are like, nobody cares, dude. Who cares? Nobody cares about badminton. It's like, fuck.
All right. Closest to the pin. Fireball. We love Fireball whiskey. Fireball's just transformative. It transforms the moment. That's what I'm going to say, is it transforms the moment. And when you golf, there's a lot of stress. We did a whole little bit earlier about the stress of trying to play golf, post a score, the whole deal. Fireball really helps you realize and get to the point of why you're actually out there. And it's to have fun. It's to escape. It's to let loose. And that iconic cinnamon whiskey from Fireball, boy, oh boy, does it change the experience the minute that somebody says, hey, let's rip those 50 milliliter Fireball shooters. Let's get into this thing. It just ups the ante. It ups the vibes. It ups the feel. It ups the entire day. So we love Fireball's iconic cinnamon whiskey.
We love it. Yeah, it really does change just the whole perception of what you're doing out there. You get closer to the core of why you're out there, which is to have fun, spend time with your friends, and maybe play okay, which it'll help you. Because like we talked about, you'll be more relaxed as opposed to just freaking out. So 50 milliliter shooters, Fireball, they're the best. We love them. We just really love them. It's a great, great product.
Nobody ever like takes some Fireball shots and then the whole group 10 minutes later is like, we're having less fun now. We shouldn't have done that. Like that's just never going to happen. So Fireball,
never, ever.
Awesome. All right. First one, how far away from Earth is the James Webb Telescope? And we'll say, let's pick Friday, which I guess will be May? Is that still May? May 31st.
It's May 31st.
Friday at noon Eastern. I can't imagine it's going to be that much different in terms of our answers, but Friday at noon Eastern, if we can figure that out, how far away at that moment from Earth is the James Webb Telescope?
I got to ask a question. This thing's moving, right? This thing's going.
I'm of the belief that this thing is going. Now, is it orbiting something somewhere? I really don't know. If it's orbiting Earth at like a consistent distance, that would be a real letdown. I don't know if that's the answer. I have no clue.
And the unit of measurement we're probably going to be using is miles, right?
We're going to use miles, and I would guess it's a lot of miles. Now, again, I don't know if this thing is in our solar system. I don't know if we sent it I imagine it's got to still be in the solar system, but I have to think the Hubble telescope, that thing's not just like orbiting Earth, right? Didn't we send that thing out there a little bit?
Here's what's about to happen on this podcast. I'm going to get exposed for not knowing anything about space and how far things are from each other. Like, if the question was, how far is the moon from Earth? I think my guesses would stun people. I have no idea.
I think I've got a pretty good ballpark guess on how far the moon is from Earth. Do you want to do that right now? Do we want to throw a couple numbers out? This is not a reel for points, but this is just for our own entertainment.
Bro, I'm getting red in the face. I feel like my face is getting red because if I say 4,000 miles away, the moon from Earth.
I know my guess. And again, this is total guess. I don't know. I'm going to guess 230,000 miles away. But I could be.
See, I was going to say off. 1,000,000 miles away.
All right, so let's look that up.
Look it up.
Let's look up how far away the moon is from Earth. Because, see, our guesses are so different that this is what I mean with the James Webb.
I just got to be thinking that rocket that they were on to get to that moon, that took them days to get there. And I feel like that thing's not just going 60. That thing's going that thing is moving.
Riggs, what did you guess?
I think I said 230 or 35,000.
No fucking shot. 238,900 miles.
Okay.
The moon.
First of all, incredible guess by you. Second, I said 4,000 miles.
I said
I was
1,000,000.
off by a factor of over 50.
Well, dude,
so
I was thinking in my head too, because I think the United States from coast to coast is roughly I want to say it's 3,000 something miles.
I think that's right. Oh, I see.
So then I was just thinking the scale at this point has got to be way bigger than that. And I do think that I've watched enough moon stuff recently in the last couple of years that I felt like I'd be in the ballpark. Now that doesn't mean that I'm going to have any idea on this telescope situation, because you kind of buckled my brain there on if it's just orbiting, then I'm going to feel like a real idiot. If it's just going around our Earth at the exact same distance the whole time, then this is going to be a real letdown.
This is our let's throw the Hail Mary with this bad boy. We're gonna see how far this thing can go. I think that thing is headed far, far away. If I'm understanding it correctly,
that's what I thought. I thought we kind of we patted it on the ass and said, "Get out there," and it's just been kind of buzzing out there ever since.
All right. Let's do some guesses. So, how far is the James Webb Telescope from Earth by Friday, May 31st
at noon?
Are we doing the big group or just us?
I'm in the big group right now.
Oh man, I got no fucking clue.
I'm gonna be so far off. Holy shit,
bro! The moon thing actually fucked me up, I think.
Okay, all right. I'm texting the group right now. I don't really know what to think.
This is a nightmare. All right, I put it in there, and it's just is what it is. Alex Bush is laughing at my guess. I can hear him
because mine is so much more.
I'm also making sure I know what numbers are proper. I almost need to write it out. Okay.
I fucked up, dude.
All right.
Trent, 624,000 miles. Alex, 969,000 miles. Riggs,
so different.
Riggs, 12,500,000 miles.
Could be though. Genuinely could be.
Do you want me to look it up what it is now, or do you want to?
No,
wait?
don't. Because No, don't, because people,
Okay.
then
No.
people, if they're listening,
Yeah,
will know.
true.
Yeah, you just got to guess blindly. You just got to guess blindly so that Friday's going to be a big moment at noon. We're going to start seeing some tweets come in, and I don't know.
Think about it. So think about, we can get to the next one, but like the moon is the number that we said. And if they just sent this thing, I'm saying this thing is 3 times further away from us than the moon is. But it could be, dude, it could be way out there. Because the images that it's sending back seems like it's way out there.
And my thinking was like, if we sent, like I said, those astronauts, allegedly, to the moon 50 years ago, and it took them 3 days or whatever the fuck it took them. I'm trying to think about watching like Apollo 13. It took them like 3 days, and they just kind of went straight there. And that's 238,000 miles away. And we've just been sending this thing in a straight line for 3 years or whatever it's been. That thing's got to be way out there.
Wow. We're not going to say it on the show because we don't want people to know, but when this is over, I'm looking it up.
Okay. All right.
Because my guess is it.
All right. Next one. What will the highest temperature on Earth on June 1st, the highest recorded temperature on Earth, what will that be?
So anywhere on Earth, just the number one highest temperature. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta think that like they have one of that. There's a way to look it up. I don't know. I didn't do this on because like you can't if someone's doing a science experiment and they got something cooking at 700 degrees like that can't count. It's like what is the highest recorded like weather temperature? Somewhere
Okay,
on Earth.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I like that.
On June 1st, what will that be?
All right, my guess is in. There's some hot places, man.
Jeez.
I don't know. I don't know what to think here.
I even feel like I might have gone a little low.
We're in Trent 129, Riggs 131, Alex 141.
Oh, you guys fucked me big time.
Yeah, well,
You got everything
maybe.
under.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be where you guys are at. I feel like I went low.
Because
like the Sahara.
Do places get a lot hotter than like the desert in Arizona? Because I know in Arizona in July or August we'll get something that's like 120, but not much hotter than that.
It's an interesting question. I was like, I'm trying to think of the hottest places in the world, and there has to be like a desert where nobody lives because you can't live there. That's like 150 in June.
Right. 141 was my original guess, and I dropped it down 10 because I was like, that would be insanely hot. But dude, think about how hot 100 is, and you're gonna add 40 degrees. You're gonna melt off the earth.
I think we're right in the ballpark, though.
All right. Third one, closest to the pin, brought to you by Fireball Whiskey, iconic cinnamon whiskey. The highest score last week on the PGA Tour that I saw, I just kind of scrolled through. I could be wrong, but it was by Paul Haley, who recorded an 82. What will the highest score be recorded at the Canadian Open this week? What will the highest score posted be?
Okay.
All right, we're all in. Riggs 83, Trent 79, Alex 82.
Wonder what the data would say on how many rounds in the 80s are there per year on the PGA Tour?
God, Justin Ray.
Is every week is somebody shooting in the 80s?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Like I guess if you're off,
remember
it's
how
pretty easy to shoot
stunning it was
80.
when JT put up 80s, and we were like, I mean, I get that it's JT, but like maybe it happens more often than we think, or I just don't know.
I have no idea. That's a really good question. There were a few different scores in the 80s last week, but even that course was playing really, really hard, and there were still only a few. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't love my guess, to be honest with you. I think it's too high. All right, last one, closest to pin. Nelly Cordes won 6 out of 7 events, I believe, on the LPGA Tour. 6 out of the last 7. She won a major championship in there. U.S. Women's Open this week. Lancaster. I don't know a ton about the golf course, but it's a U.S. Women's Open, so I imagine it'll play relatively difficult. What is the total number of bogeys Nelly Cordes will make this entire week? Total number of bogeys.
I hope she doesn't do this, but is this bogeys or worse or just bogeys?
Bogeys are worse. It's a good point. Okay. Bogeys are worse.
That is so bogeys are worse.
Hopefully,
bogeys.
Not,
if she makes a triple, that should count as one. Duh.
Any research on this one, or are we just flying blind?
We're flying blind, completely blind. Okay. She's really good at golf. That's all you need to know.
She's so good. Like I almost. Like you don't want to.
You're gonna say 0,
right? Like how many has she made in the last 7 events?
I'm just thinking
it's that many.
It's a U.S. Open, man. There's got to be a day where she makes a hand. I don't know.
All right.
Do you want a little stats here?
Sure.
No.
I have.
No,
Okay.
too late. I already sent it. I already sent it.
Boy, I don't know. I came up with a number and I put it in the chat, you know?
All right. Riggs 7, Trent 9, Alex 4.
4.
Do you have research on hand? Like how many has she made?
I
How
do.
many
I
did she make last
didn't.
week?
I didn't look at it correctly yet, but she made. Let's see. Round 4. She made 3.
Ooh. She doesn't make that many bogeys, dude.
She can't. If you win 6 or 7 events, you're not making bogeys.
You just don't make bogeys. There's just no way.
9. My 9 is way too high. 9 bogeys? No
Oh,
way.
here we go. So last week she made
4
1,
rounds?
2. She made 5 last week in 4 rounds,
That's
and 1 bogeyless round. And rounds 1 and 2, she only had 1.
Dude,
Wow.
that was at Liberty National too, I believe. And like, I play out there a bunch. I love Liberty National. It's so easy to make bogeys out there. It's like fucking impossible. She made, what'd you say, 4, 5 the whole week?
Yeah, 5 in
bogeys
4 rounds.
in 4 rounds is like
So
stuff.
4's looking good.
I feel horrible about 9.
It's US Open. It's US Open that helps, but she just does not make that. She just doesn't make that many bogeys, dude.
All right, those are good ones.
All right, we're in. Let's pick up some points here. Let's pick up some points on the little attendance points.
Yep.
All right, and last thing we got a little from the gallery for the folks. From the gallery is brought to you by TaylorMade. I believe TaylorMade Golf, which we love. We're big fans of TaylorMade Golf. The QI10, I was able to, because I had originally been using the QI10 Max, and now I've moved to the QI10 Core, which I've been hitting amazingly. But that QI10 Max, I was able to secure for my brother, and he got it, and he was walking around the house, going up to his wife, going, "Look at this golf club! Can you see how phenomenal this thing looks?" And then going to both his kids. And my nephew Robbie was like, "Wow, that thing is cool." And then obviously my brother wouldn't even let him touch it because he didn't want him to drop it on the concrete or the hard floor or anything. But it is such a sexy club. TaylorMadeGolf.com. Go check it out. Go get fitted. Schedule a fitting so you get the right club. But we're talking Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Nelly Korda, Tommy Fleetwood. These are the best players on the planet Earth, and they're rocking the QI10, QI10 Max, QI10 LS from TaylorMade Golf. The quest for 10K inertia, which they found, it's more forgiving. It's a phenomenal golf club. They just nailed it. They nailed it with the QI10. So big thanks to TaylorMade Golf on that one. Another hole-in-one question. This isn't really, does this hole-in-one count? This is more what to do about it. Scott from Canada says, so my brother makes a hole-in-one on the very first hole, first swing, first player to hit in a 4-man scramble event. Should he, and I believe Scott was arguing this, should he then play his own ball for the rest of the round while the rest of us play a 3-person scramble so that he has his own scorecard from the day that he got a hole-in-one, or should he just play the rest of the scramble normal with the rest of us?
Oh, wow. Geez, that's a good question. Fuck. I get what he's saying, but it's not like if he plays as the scramble, because I'm trying to picture if this had happened during one of our rounds. Obviously, it's still going to be like he got a hole-in-one, but you maybe want the scorecard. I think you'd still just play the scramble. I don't think you would play and have your own scorecard.
I think so too. I get what he's saying, and I get that he's saying it's like a very rare, unique situation where your round hasn't been spoiled yet by a scramble. Like it's just the beginning of your round. So like you have a very unique opportunity in a 4-person scramble to play your own ball and put a number on a scorecard. But then you're like the only one playing your own ball, which kind of like takes away from the vibe the whole day, where it's like, dude, you just got an ace. Like, let's keep doing the whole thing. Our team starts with a fucking 1. We started with a 1 and a hole. And now you're just living. And that scorecard you're going to post is going to be like a 10 under or whatever it is scorecard where you got an ace. You get to frame that bad boy. So maybe get 2 scorecards and just keep one that's a little bit like your own personal one for when you guys got the ace. But I'm with you. I don't think you change the whole vibes just because somebody got an ace. I think you keep
I also don't think I've ever asked someone, like if someone's like, "Oh yeah, I got a hole-in-one," my follow-up question isn't, "What'd you shoot?" Like, "Oh, what was your 18-hole score?" Maybe that is for some people, but if you got a hole-in-one, you got a hole-in-one, and then I don't think you fuck with the vibes. I think you do the scramble.
My buddy Jeremy got a hole-in-one in a 4-person scramble, and it was their last hole of the day, and I think he was the last guy to hit. He did a walk-off ace to finish out the event.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great. He was he likes to get after it, and he was sending some great stuff to the group text that night. He had a fun time. Corey sent us a nice note and said, hey, we got this whole group going together. We got a bunch of guys that are pretty much in this handicap range, this handicap range. We're going to a place where we don't want to do scrambles or alternate shot because we all want to play our ball at this iconic place. What is a great format that's a little bit different for everyone playing their own ball? And the reason I kind of put this in is because we always do on one of my trips with my St. Louis boys, we generally always do one round that is the game Vegas. And if people haven't played the game Vegas, I think I've described it a few times before in the podcast, but Vegas is an awesome game where you play 2v2, you each play your own ball, and whatever net score each player makes, you add them together. So if somebody's getting a stroke, other guy's not, the one guy makes a 4, the other guy makes a 5 net 4, your team scores a 44. Then the other team, you do the exact same thing. So let's say they make a 54, your team profits 10 points on that hole, so you would be up 10 points overall, and you just keep doing that throughout the round. The catch is, if you birdie a hole, like a gross birdie we pretty much play, if you gross birdie a hole, it flips the other team's scores. So if someone on the other team makes a 7 and a 4, you would have gone from, let's say you made a 3 and a 4, you go from 34 to 47. That's not that big of a difference, but because the birdie, you flip it. So it'd be 34 to 74, and now you just absolutely steamrolled them on that hole. And then you can play, if you want to play a little money game, you can play that Vegas, each point's worth $1 or a couple dollars or 50 cents or whatever you want. You can do that on denomination, but it makes both scores count. And it's fucking awesome because birdies are cool. They're fun. We like to do fireball shots when people make birdie. So Vegas, great format if people have never played it before.
I think that's a good one. I didn't have a prepared answer for that. I think Vegas is a really good answer to that because I can understand wanting to play your own ball when you go to these cool places. We deal with that sometimes where it's like we're going to go play these 9-hole scramble matches, and then that's just the way that our job works, I suppose. But if you're out there with your buddies, you know, play your own ball, yeah, figure out something, and I think Vegas is a good solution to that.
It's a little bit of it's an easier pill for us to swallow because we're there for work anyway. So you're kind of like, all right, it's not like we scheduled and paid for this whole buddies trip. It's like we're doing a work trip. So if I got to play this iconic course as a scramble with you guys, it's not the end of the world. But I can understand how people obviously don't want to do it when they go on a once in a lifetime trip or whatever.
Yeah.
Connor in Dallas says, how often do you guys have to stop having off-camera conversations and say, let's save it for the pod? Does it take away from your typical 19th hole banter?
I think it's gone up exponentially since Dan Rappaport joined the program. We'll hop on these Zooms
every show.
He's a big offender.
Alex Bush, podcast producer, chiming in because he's right. Every time we'll hop on the Zoom. I guess it's not as much like 18th, 19th hole stuff. It's pre-podcast stuff where Alex will send out the Zoom link, and you know a couple of us will hop in. And we'll just be hanging. Like it is kind of awkward to sit there waiting for the third and fourth guy or whatever, and you're not really talking about anything. You're just kind of sitting there. So you inevitably and naturally start to say like, "Oh yeah, I played this round. It went really well, and this is what happened." And then you just got to be like, "Just hold on, man. Let's not talk about any of this. Let's talk about it on the podcast." And Dan Rappaport he does that all the time.
He's a wild offender of jumping in and legitimately talking like gossipy wise before we record about the juiciest golf related topic that we're going to touch on the podcast. Like he'll jump in and be like, how about this Rory divorce, guys? Like, what do you know? And you're like, dude, no, like we're going to do a whole podcast about whatever's going on in the golf world. That's going to be a big part of it. So he is a big offender, but I will say we're all pretty chatty people. So I don't know that like in a typical, if we're in like a fucking car ride or something, we're not like, hey, we can't talk about this. It is in the awkward moments in the Zoom where we do come in and we're like, I want to talk to these guys. Weird that we're looking at each other, but we got to save it for the podcast.
It is sometimes beneficial. You'll find things to talk about that somebody will bring something up when you're in the car and it'll strike people will start firing opinions and you're like, all right, let's talk about that on the show. Like it can work both ways, but sometimes you burn good stuff, but also sometimes you find a topic that you otherwise wouldn't have talked about at all.
Yeah. I agree with that. And it spawns it. And you try to write a note down or remember something for the podcast because, good discussion is always going to be a good discussion, but you try not to ruin it, especially right before the show. Dan's probably our biggest offender. Last one, we're going to go with John. And John says, as Xander walked up 18 of the PGA Championship, Jim Nantz said, an up and down for a career-changing and life-changing victory. And then he goes, is winning one PGA Championship for a player like Xander's caliber really a career and life-changing moment?
Yes. Especially for Xander. It's case by case, but Xander did have the rep or the narrative or whatever you want to call it of a guy who hadn't won the big one, because he's been there, and I know he won a gold medal, but we're talking majors. He's the guy who's always there, a top 10 machine at majors, and just had never won one. And I think that matters. Like, if we were talking about it for anybody else, who knows? But for Xander specifically, I think it's true. I think it's a career changer for sure. Life changing, that's usually you're talking about money, and Xander has more money than everybody. Like, they all have more money than everybody. But if you're talking about a career goal, career changing, I would say absolutely yes for Xander.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think career changing, massive. He's now just a major winner. He was pretty much labeled as like the best player without having won a major, gotten over the hump. He sort of had he was building up a little bit of like he can't close type thing. Everybody was chirping that he was going to choke after he opened with a 62. And now he's the guy that went wire to wire. He won a major championship at a major championship caliber course, even though people were kind of bitching about the score. But it's hosted a bunch of majors. It's hosted the Ryder Cup, whatever. And now he's got the win there. I would say it would be more life-changing for maybe like a Max Homa or somebody like that, where it's like that would really, like, I know Max he has elevated his career in the last few years, delivering in the Ryder Cup, delivering in the President's Cup, winning obviously several times. But I think it would be more life-changing for Max Homa, just because it feels like almost inevitable that Xander was going to win some majors, whereas I think it like changes the trajectory of his career, where earlier he broke through, like now that he's broken through, he's good. I think we all feel like there's a little bit of the floodgates have opened. He's going to feel more comfortable, whatever. Whereas Max, like, I just feel like that would be more like life changing of like, oh my God, the Twitter guy is also a fucking major championship winner. So maybe Max is close enough to Xander that it's not as big, but there are players where it'd be like a life-changing thing to win this PGA championship, where Xander's almost already on that level, and I think it changes his career more than his life, like you were saying. Yeah,
I agree. I wonder, like, when it comes down to dollars and cents and like in contracts, like with their apparel or their club sponsor or whatever, like, is it tiered? Like, if you win a major, I wonder if they're like, you are now in this tier. Now I get like your overall influence, and that probably has more to do with it than everything else, but like, if you win a major, are you like a college football coach, like Kirk Ferentz? If he wins a bowl game, he gets $300,000 extra on top of his regular contract. I wonder if it's similar with golf contracts.
I believe it is, and I think it depends, but I believe they get like extra bumps for PGA Tour win, and then like an extra bump for a major championship win, and then I think the future earnings are obviously affected by that. Of like, hey, you're now. When you sign the future contract, you're a major championship winner. The price tag for the hat and for the chest and all that comes at a higher price. And now, like when you do win a major like that, like look at our guy, Trevor Immelman. I mean, Trevor Immelman is the man, got a great voice, but if he just doesn't win that Masters, I don't know that Trevor Immelman has this, top 2 or 3 coveted seat in all of golf broadcasting, but he obviously won the fucking Masters, took down Tiger Woods down the stretch of 2008. And because he's a major winner, a Masters winner, that's a huge part of the reason that he's got the seat next to Jim Nantz. I think like those types of things all become more possible if you win a major championship.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a guy like Sahith Theegala. He is ranked wealth in the world, life changing. If Sahith Theegala wins the PGA, more so even than Xander, I feel like.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, whenever maybe that's just something with age. Sahith hasn't been all around that long. Yeah, it's case by case. Just depends on who they are. Sahith for sure life changing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's all I got in terms of From the Gallery, brought to you by TaylorMade Golf. Great time doing closest to the pin. Great friends at Fireball Whiskey. Otherwise, I went through my whole list here. That's pretty much all that I had. I'm excited to get up to Canada. So again, if you're going to be in Toronto at the RBC Canadian Open this week, say hi. I'm going to be all over that place. Let's go, Alistair. Hope he has a great week. Regardless, it's an awesome experience, huge event. Pumped to get up there and see it. And then go watch Breaking 90. Go to store.barstoolsports.com. Check out our merchandise. Anything else you got there, Trent Ryan?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Love it. Enjoy this interview. We got Dan Rappaport and Harry Higgs. Hit it hard.
Hit it hard.
Did you find any subscriptions you forgot about or any you paid for twice and didn't realize it? Most Americans think they spend about $62 per month on subscriptions, but get this. Guess what that actual number is, Trent? Guess what that actual number is?
What is it?
$300.
Whoa.
That's right. Thousands of dollars per year, half of which we've probably forgotten about because, again, most Americans, they think that they spend $62 a month on subscriptions. That real number is much closer to $300. Thankfully, we started using Rocket Money. They found a bunch of subscriptions I'd forgotten all about and then helped me cancel the ones I didn't want anymore. I was actually paying for a couple different Netflix accounts for years. And then I got Rocket Money, and they figured out because I had signed up with one when I was living in New York, and then I moved to like Arizona. When I moved to Arizona, it kind of hits you with like, oh, you're in a different place. Would you like this? And bottom line, I was paying for 2 Netflix subscriptions, didn't even realize it. Guess who figured that out? Rocket Money.
I was talking to somebody about Rocket Money the other day, and I was singing its praises so loudly that they were like, is this an ad read? Are you doing an ad read right in front of me? And I'm like, no, this thing is Rocket Money. This app is unbelievable for spending. It just shows you what you spend your money on. Again, the canceled subscriptions and all that, that's sort of the pitch. And I use it for that as well, but it's a financial tool is what this thing is. It shows you where you're spending your money, it'll create a plan for you if you kind of want to tighten things up and get things in order. And it just shows you black and white. This is what you spent on this month. This is what you spent on this month. And you can kind of start trimming here and there and saving money. I'm telling you, I use Rocket Money all the time.
Rocket Money also has over 5 million users. They've saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Rocket Money is a personal finance app, finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending like Trent's talking about and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your own savings. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/Fore. That's rocketmoney.com/Fore. rocketmoney.com/Fore.
What's on the side of your face?
I had some skin cancer taken off yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. Nothing major. Nothing major.
What an eventful
Everything's
couple
fine.
of days.
Yeah, I had probably like 6 weeks ago. I just went in and she, biopsied something on the side of my face, and then just like, all right, well, I guess it came back as again nothing major, but I guess I gotta get that taken off.
Are you going to become like a bucket hat guy now?
Probably not. No, bucket hats are weird.
I think they're cool.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea. I always hear an echo like when I talk in them. It's just odd.
Okay.
But yes, this is not a big deal. It looks a lot worse than it is. I gotta change this Band-Aid out and then wear a Band-Aid for a couple more days. Nothing major. Just a few stitches afterwards. I'm fine, but it does look ridiculous.
I'm starting to think now that like maybe my first reaction when I see something like that shouldn't just be like, what's on your face? I should probably be a little bit more delicate.
It's totally fine. I did Smiley's podcast earlier this morning, and he was like looking in. He's like, is there something on your face? I couldn't tell if it was your wall or whatnot. And so, yeah, man.
Yeah, that's the difference between like Southern manners where he's trying to like be nice about it, whereas I'm just, coastal asshole who's like, what's wrong with your face? That's totally
fine. I'm more used to the coastal asshole. No offense to you, but I'm more used to, yo, dude, what's going on?
Yeah, what the hell is that? We're joined by Harry Higgs. That's probably clear by now to everyone who's listening. Winner of the last 2 Korn Ferry Tour events. You got married also.
I did.
I was told to ask why didn't you do this earlier if this was all going to happen right after you got married?
That's a great question. If I knew this was going to happen, I'd have done it a decade ago. But no, I had a busy and obviously a great close to a month. We really enjoyed, obviously, the 2 of us getting married, but spending time with kind of our friends and loved ones. We got married on Grand Cayman, so as you can imagine, it was a whole lot of fun. Some fun on the beach. Great wedding that I really had nothing to do with. It was a surprise party for me, but it was lovely. And then right back to work. Yeah, played Myrtle Beach the week after. Technically, I mean, it's not going to end up being, but technically Myrtle Beach was our honeymoon, and then roll it right into 2 Korn Ferry events that obviously was fortunate enough to win.
Yeah, so a wedding in the middle of the golf season. Was there like a golf outing involved? You know, like I had a guy played friends with my golf in the beginning because I love golf, but like, were you sick of it? Did you practice at all? You had tournaments coming up.
Absolutely not. I brought my golf clubs with me because I knew there was a chance I was going to be playing Myrtle Beach the week after. I actually showed up in Myrtle Beach as the second alternate, and then wound up getting in Tuesday afternoon. So I was playing, but no, didn't even unpack my golf clubs for the 6 days we were there.
Nice. And then you win 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, you know, a couple weeks ago, you had a good start on the Korn Ferry Tour this year. You finished, I think, 14th, 16th, your first two events. Then it was kind of rough sledding. Or I always get that wrong. Rough sledding, rough shedding, whatever it is.
I think it's rough sledding. Yeah.
Rough sledding.
Yeah,
that would make more sense than shedding.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask, like, a couple weeks ago, you shoot 75-75. You missed the cut in Savannah. Where are you mentally? Like you're facing, I think it's like, what is it, top 75 keep their card on the Korn Ferry. Obviously you have some sort of status from playing well in tour events in the past, but like where were you mentally up until, you know, it must have been kind of a tough spot.
It was. I don't think I really ever had the like doom and gloom. What's this, you know, what is this going to mean if I continue to struggle out here? Where am I going to be playing? It was more, I mean, just obviously frustration that, like, gosh, I kind of kept thinking like I'm working way too hard for these to be the results continuously. And then also, obviously, I'm sure we'll get into it, the last couple of weeks where it wasn't like I wasn't working any harder, but just like the nicer to myself, the focus on some things that don't have to do with the results, where the shot goes, you know, what score you make on the hole, what score you shoot on the day, and obviously that had an effect on my play. But I mean, I was just frustrated. I mean, everybody does, but I was putting a lot of work into it, and I did, like, deep down feel like I was getting better. I knew things were on the right track. I just wasn't hitting many good shots, or consecutive good shots for that matter. And then in that, I was getting too frustrated with where my ball was going and kind of the quality of shots that I was hitting, which is okay. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to acknowledge, you know, in my opinion, that, you know, maybe this isn't good enough just yet, but the kind of plan of attack never really needed to change. I needed to keep doing some of the things that I were doing, get a little better at it. And then once I kind of did feel like I was a little better at it, you know, what would be 6 weeks, almost maybe 2 months later, was like, okay, now I need to focus on the mental side of all this and making sure that once I do get the ball rolling in the right direction, I allow it to keep rolling, and I allow myself to play, compete, to win tournaments instead of getting frustrated over little things. And next thing you know, you turn a chance to win into a 15th place finish, let's say. And sometimes, you know, you're going to play great, you're going to finish 15th anyway. And shoot, there are some times where you play, I wouldn't say great, but you play some pretty darn good golf, and you don't maybe play the weekend. So just trying to keep it obviously all in perspective, and just be freaking nicer to myself, man. It was, it worked. It worked for the last 2 weeks. So I'm excited that I can try to continue down that path and hopefully get even better at the mental side of the game, all while getting better at the physical side as well.
I'm always curious, you know, a guy like yourself, you've played 118 tour events, I believe is the number. You finished, you finished second twice. The standard of your golf the last 2 days, you wanted to play off both weeks. Let's say the field wasn't a Korn Ferry field, but it was a signature event field. It was the field, you know, at Memorial in a couple of weeks. Where are you finishing?
Without sounding like an arrogant asshole, I think I would have a chance to win with what I was doing the last 2 weeks.
So you feel like the top of these Korn Ferry events, like it's just as good. It's maybe just not the sort of 10. Like, because I'm always curious. Like, you can feel it. You can feel when you're playing well enough to win.
Yeah, I think the level of golf at the top is the same. Now, the ability to maybe continue to focus like at a deeper level and execute maybe harder, I would say harder golf shots, but also golf shots that just look harder. Obviously, some of the courses we play on the Korn Ferry Tour and even just a full field PGA Tour event maybe are not as difficult as some of the. Memorial is coming up, and that's a signature event. A Memorial to me just looks like the hardest golf course in the world, and the times that I've played it has proven to be true. But yeah, I mean, I think, like, let's say you drop me in a Memorial and I'd have the same couple of weeks. I might have to be even better mentally because there's going to be some good shots that end up in spots where you're just going to make bogey, but that's going to happen to everybody because the golf course is so freaking hard. But I think I would have had a chance. I think I might have had to raise my level a little bit, maybe save a few more shots, hole a few more putts, chip it a little closer. But I think the golf I played the last 2 weeks would have had me at or around the lead in any tour event.
So you finished 4th in the PGA in 2021. You finished 14th in the Masters in 2022. I think people maybe don't realize because they don't really pay attention to you guys until you get out on the big tour. But you spent 4 years on the PGA Tour, Latin America. You were grinding. Yeah. It took a while till you had your breakthrough. Did you feel like you were past going back? Was it a shock to the system?
I felt like I was past going back for sure. And then, to some degree, I'd say shock. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't think I'd be able to come up with the word. I guess, humbled, I guess, to go back. But it's not, I guess, shocking to me that I've had the success this year that I've had and will have the opportunity to go back because it just does feel like the level of golf I'm capable of, it does feel like I should be playing the PGA Tour for, hopefully the rest of my career. To me, it was just an opportunity. I don't really care about proving it to others, but just prove to myself that what I just said was true, right? Like I am capable of competing on the PGA Tour, and this is just kind of a step in that journey. It didn't really freak me out that I had to go, maybe this year play some Korn Ferry events and, only get a few starts on the PGA Tour or any of that. It was just, all right, that's where I'm going. That's it's still the pursuit. I'm still trying to get better at what I do. And then hopefully that translates to good play on the golf course in whatever tournament it may be. But I was bummed. I felt I really wanted to be one of those guys that always, played the PGA Tour for 20 years and kept his card for 20 years and competed to win, a handful of times a year. But it's just, it's part of my journey, I guess. And it certainly has been a positive, even without the results, but a positive. I wanted to use this year as something like, all right, let's really dig deep and get better at some of the things that I know I needed to get better at. And let's just get better as, an overall golfer and hopefully person as well. And I think I'm on the right track.
It's you're up to 140 in the world. It's amazing how far you can jump winning Korn Ferry events now. Yeah. Like I feel like the world rankings.
I have not usually been big into checking that. I did look at it, maybe yesterday. I had obviously no idea that if you win back-to-back events too, they just throw you some bonus points. Yeah. Naturally, I haven't. I haven't given myself the chance to win back-to-back events before. The 2 previous tournaments I'd won at Latin America and then the Korn Ferry Tour, I just didn't even play the week after that because it was kind of later in the year and I was finished. My stuff was done. Nice to get a little bonus and nice to, but obviously we just ran the same program in Knoxville as I did in Kansas City. And, it was probably the first golf tournament, definitely one of the 1 or 2, maybe 3 that like I showed up and was like, okay, if I do this, I'm pretty certain I'm going to have a chance to win. So your mind wanders all week that like, I should be here. I should win. I should do this. I should do that. But you got to rein it back into the stuff that, got me there in Kansas City. And, of the things I was trying to achieve in Kansas City off the golf course, while on the golf course, but non-result based stuff. I said, I would have said I did, maybe B. And then if I was to grade myself, and then last week I would have said it was pretty close to an A or higher. I was real proud of, man, like I'm there to win. It's plain and simple. My skills are way too good to think of anything else at the moment. So let's do real good at this mental stuff. And it was nice that it worked out. I did them obviously both in dramatic fashion. I would have loved to have won them both in regulation, but that's just how they fell.
Yeah, well, you gave us an all-time clip that kind of got swallowed up by the PGA Championship, but when I saw that come across my desk, I was like, the video, the angle, I think
they did an unbelievable job. Yeah, unbelievable how they caught that, how it caught the roll, and then obviously getting me and my caddy Matt Irwin's reaction. We nailed that high five too.
Not easy to do.
Than he did.
Golfers are usually not good with the high fives.
We are all pretty bad at high fives from what I've seen before. I haven't had many chances to try them. But we did it. We had a nice one in Knoxville too after the eagle fell in the second playoff hole that we're 2 for 2. But now when they were both kind of chest high, so maybe if we get the next one, if we go high, he is, I love Matt to death, but he is quite a bit shorter than I am. So that might be where we fall. We kind of blunder on the high fives.
Yeah, I think the low five is probably a good move.
Summer is all about the freedom to have fun, but you don't need to blow your budget on a trip to necessarily make that fun happen. Forget about a vacation. Take a tequila-cation with the new Truly Tequila Soda. I got to say, this summer already, late spring, whatever you want to call it, I've had several days at the Barstool Classic, pretty much when Frankie and Trent aren't there, and I'm doing the first tee walk-ups where you just have a couple Trulies throughout the entire day. Not a couple. You end up having several throughout the day. It's hot out. It's nice. The Truly Tequila Sodas are phenomenal. And you listen to music, you get people vibing out there. They're having Trulies, you're having a couple. You can't help it. My dad was out there last week. He was going through a bunch of the tequila sodas and just absolutely loved them. So these things are here to stay.
Yeah, they're delicious. They're refreshing. And you're right. Nothing pairs better with some Truly than music. You just crank the tunes, drink a few, maybe shake your shoulders a little bit, move those hips, and you're having a really, really good time. And you can do that all summer long with Truly.
The refreshing blend of real fruit juice from concentrate, sparkling water, and premium tequila blanco is the drink of the summer. Try all 4 refreshing flavors. They've got lime, pineapple, guava, grapefruit, and watermelon, all with 5% ABV and just 100 calories. So take a tequila-cation with new Truly Tequila Soda today. Truly Tequila Soda. Keep it light. Hard Seltzer Beverage Company, Boston, Massachusetts. Please drink responsibly.
So now you and Tim, I don't know why, it's probably Whiting.
Or Weeding, yeah.
Yeah. You guys have both won twice, so you're both, is that the plan now? Try and get that. I don't know if we were allowed to call it the Battlefield promotion anymore, but it hasn't been done since 2021. I think that might have been a casualty of the last couple of years. I don't know what they're calling it now. Battlefield promotion doesn't feel like the right word anymore.
That's what I've heard.
You're in contention.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm sure Tim thinks the same way. It's weird for me. My understanding of it is that if I were to win, I'm going to play Greenville next week. So if I were to win Greenville, that gives me 3. My understanding of it is where the category that I would jump into, I jump like 15 or 20 guys and still may or may not get into summer events. It would certainly help me out quite a bit in the fall. But yeah, I guess that's my understanding, and I could be mistaken. Maybe I jump ahead of the Corn Ferry guys that graduated last year, but I do not believe that's the case. And I'm just in the category just behind them. So it would be an honor. It would be nice to win 3 golf tournaments in a year for sure. But I don't think it really makes a huge difference in terms of my eligibility for the rest of this year. But the goal, I haven't really hunkered down and thought of the schedule just yet, but the goal probably needs to shift to play more Corn Ferry events. Maybe a few PGA Tour events I don't end up playing that I get in. I might also have to refuse a few invites if they come my way, just because the difference between winning the Corn Ferry points list and not, the difference between 1
US
and 2
Open players, right?
Yeah, and fully exempt, where you don't have to worry about reshuffle or anything like that. So you're into every single full field event, and then obviously the US Open and players. So that my goals will have to shift a bit more towards that, and which is, playing more Corn Ferry events. I might sprinkle a few tour events here and there, and I still would get maybe a handful of starts in the fall once the Corn Ferry Tour wraps up. But I think the goal is trying to run down Tim. He was the guy that I took over for on the back 9 in the Pro-Am on Wednesday, and I had
symbolic.
Met him and just congratulated him on his success. He obviously was very kind and congratulated me on last week, and then I just jokingly said, you're the guy we're all trying to catch. And then, it just so happens I got a little closer, and I think he had a nice week last week as well, maybe in the top 10 or close to it.
He finished 8th,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know Tim. I haven't played golf with him. The word is he's a phenomenal golfer that will have a ton of success continued success at the Corn Ferry level and a ton of success on the PGA Tour. Yeah, I said it aloud to him that I'm going to try to catch you. And so hopefully we have a good battle from now until the end of the year.
Yeah. So, those Swedes, they don't mess around.
Yeah, dude, they're good.
Obviously, yeah, they're good. They're good, and they have the attitude.
Yeah, he's like one of the 190 ball speed guys too, and just bombs it, and it's really well rounded. So it'll take a good effort from me. I don't hit it short, but I don't hit it that long. Those guys make the game look real easy.
I was going to say surprising since going back at just how far those guys hit it.
Yes, and I have picked up a little bit of speed, so maybe it's not totally shocking, but like we know it's coming. I mean, we've known it's coming for a while, at least for the next couple of years until maybe the golf ball and all the changes and whatnot. But that, I mean, as the golf ball changes, those guys are going to have even more of an advantage. So it's coming. The young kids really, really move it. There's a few guys I've been grouped with that might just need to rein it in sometimes. Maybe it's not the play to just bomb the driver. Most of the time on the Korn Ferry Tour it is, but there's just a couple times where now the old guy in me will lay it back a little further and make the birdie opportunity maybe a little easier. But those kids, they're smart, they're tuned in, they bomb it, they will learn very quick, and they're coming. We know that they're coming.
Yeah, I've been watching the NCAAs this weekend. It's like a 370-yard par 4 is like they hit it like in the front bunker.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I've watched them too. It's scary, man. Those are going to be the guys I got to beat. Yeah, those are going to be the guys I got to beat. I like my chances, but yeah, it's they're coming.
Yeah. Obviously, your speech after your win went super viral. What was your relationship like with Grayson, and kind of walk me through, a crazy 24 hours between hearing that news and then giving that speech on Sunday?
Yeah. Grayson and I were not super close. He was, I would also say that, most of us out on the PGA Tour and professional golf in general, we're not super close with a ton of people. I would say most everybody has 5 to 10 of their closer friends, and those would be somebody that you might share a rental house with or go to a few dinners with, maybe vacation in the off season with them and their family, stuff like that. And then the last couple of years, Grayson was on kind of the Korn Ferry Tour, and while I was playing the PGA Tour, and then we did flip-flop. Obviously, he had success there on the Korn Ferry last year, and then obviously success on the PGA Tour when playing at events that I wasn't getting into. So I hadn't seen him in at least a couple years. But that's not to say that the interactions, although few and far between, that I had with him were always enjoyable. I mean, he always had a smile on his face, even when he was struggling with maybe his golf. And I always appreciated it. I saw the clips last year after the couple tournaments he had won, and I just thought it was awesome. And it took a lot of stones to stand up there in that moment, obviously, when you could be celebrating, yourself, me, that he took the time to speak on the struggles that he's had, and try to make it easier and okay for others to, voice that they also struggle. And yeah, the passing, I heard of the passing, right, of his passing after my round on Saturday. And, if you're just finishing a round of golf, like you hear it and you kind of forget about it, getting ready for the next day, yada, yada, yada. We get back to the house we rented last week and order dinner, and then just kind of all sit around, and you scroll social media and you see some of the stories coming out about him and some of the great things that he had done with no publicity, not, obviously just doing them for the right reason. And you really sit there and reflect about, we lost, whether or not anybody was close to him or not, but he was part of our family. We all know, whether we know each other well or not, we all know what, at least to some degree, what guys are going through, how competitive it is, how hard everybody works, kind of what everybody wants to achieve, but not everybody's going to get to achieve it. So yeah, I think I said it in the speech, like we lost part of our golf family, whether close to him or not. And it kept me up Saturday. I kind of was obviously saddened to hear about it, but then also just my mind was just kind of wandering, like, if I am lucky enough to win this golf tournament tomorrow, is there a way in which that I could honor Grayson and then also maybe continue the conversation that I've heard him have, about the cliche line, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help, especially as a male. But everybody's struggling with something, whether or not it's, I would say, more severe or not. But the severity of it doesn't matter. Everybody deserves to feel loved. everybody deserves, to be treated kindly. And then why not? Why not us golfers in general? We could look after each other even better than we already do. And I do feel looked after by especially my closest friends, and I hope that they would say the same about me. But why not try to continue to make a difference and keep this in the forefront of everybody's minds, although it's in the forefront of our minds because of tragedy. But why not continue to push forward and try to make the world at least a fraction of a better place?
Yeah, I think it was a really beautiful message because, it's not to say that people weren't nice to Grayson or he didn't have support. Like, that's not what we're trying to say. It's not like, if someone was nicer, this wouldn't have happened. Like, horrible things happen in the world. But when something horrible happens, what do you do from there? And I think it's really beautiful to try to use it as a force for positive, right? I mean, obviously it's a horrible tragedy. But we have a choice after something like that happens. We can react to this in a way that's, angry and sad, or we can react in this way that's gonna make the world a better place. And so I think that's why it resonated with so many people.
Yeah. I mean, I said what I said and took a few more photos in the trophy ceremony and signed a few more autographs. And then, selfishly, I was able to actually leave and get on a plane and come home. But there might have been 150, 200 people still there that heard. And 4 or 5 people came up and shared stories of Grayson. And then another 4 or 5 came up and said, look, I've been struggling with things, and I appreciate your message. And just even, and, the few people that were there just to have an impact on hopefully their lives. And again, I don't pretend to be some super influence, like I'm going to change everything, but why not speak up about it and try to help people? I mean, we're all human beings at the end of the day. Why not try to help each other get through this kind of crazy life and the crazy world that we live in? And then that message has continued. I've had, I think my emails on my Instagram. I don't know how people get my email. I think that's how they get it. But I've had people that are emailing me, that have lost loved ones to suicide, that have struggled with mental health, and that's way more important than birdies and bogeys and winning golf tournaments. So I guess it was, though tragic, it was nice that even in that moment, for me personally, it wasn't like I'm not gonna. This keeps things into perspective. And then once I it's hopefully gonna, I kind of challenge people and, challenge myself to, simply spread kindness. Like, hopefully I can continue to work on that myself, and others will work on that as well. And, it adds up over time. And then when I'm not gonna be perfect at it either, but when I'm not, reflect back that on this past weekend, obviously some success for me and some tragedy for Grayson and his family, but to kind of dock things back into perspective that, like, if I shoot 75, it really doesn't matter. Did I make a difference in somebody's world today? Very, very fortunate that I even have the opportunity to do that. And I have much smaller of an opportunity than some of the bigger stars in our sport. And that's not to say that they don't do it, because a lot of guys that play professional golf make a big difference in the communities that they live in and that we visit. Why not do better, though? We can always do better.
Yeah. I think it's really well stated. Well, we're excited to have you back on the PGA Tour next year. It must be nice now that you kind of know next year, it's a good time to be playing on the PGA Tour with all these signature events and all this. So happy days right now for Harry Higgs. I know it's been a couple rough, not rough, as we said, all in perspective, but it's nice to be on this side of it. So thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it. And hopefully you secure that star promotion.
Yeah. Amen. That would be lovely. I would love to win more and more and more and more, try to win as much as I can this year. But also try to be kind to myself and others.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.